Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. How you doing? How's everything going? I really do pray that you are well in all your ways and that you're moving into living life for truly on your own terms. Thank you so much for 100,000 subscribers, beloveds. Besides the slowing down and the shadow banning, we made it. And we're so grateful for all this continued support. Please go ahead and like and share the videos. Special shout out to our Patreon family for all the financial support of the channel, beloveds. Definitely consider joining us there, and all the links are down below. Thanks, beloveds, for all the comments and emails and personal messages that I got around the video that I released while I was in Lamu called Spiritual Marriages. Have you been married by your mother or father? And many were asking about a road to recovery video, and really I just wanted to come on here and at least start. And to be honest, beloveds, it's not an easy process, because it's like you've been mentally abused and gaslit and programmed and conditioned to literally be a type of modern slave. And to get out of that is not so much a physical process as it is a mental one. And there are certain things that you have to do, beloveds, to safeguard yourself, etc., etc. But the first thing that I have found to be the most useful is to understand and understand why this happened. The why. And the why is always tied into who you are, why you're here, the fact that you're a spiritual being having this human experience. But the why is so important to your healing, because the why will give you the necessary strength and courage and inner power to start to do something to get your life back. Because you are the only one that can take you out of this bondage. When you recognize you need that passion to be able to take some of the necessary steps that many people will try and discourage you from, that many people will try and convince you that, you're being too harsh, you're being too this, you need to have that why in your mind, so that you are convicted about moving away from that person, cutting them off, both physically and spiritually, cutting those cords. And I think I'll do a separate video on the rituals that you need to do, so that, I don't just pass through it, but you need to cut the cords. And you cut the physical cords. Stop being in contact with them. Stop going to their place. Stop having them visit you. Like, cut all contact. And then now you need to start chanting down those bonds and breaking them. And that is done with nature, through water, through fire. And it's not an easy process, beloveds, because it does bring a lot of tears. But what is the why? The why is because it's twofold. There's one level where you're a spiritual being having a human experience, but you're also like a spiritual warrior. That's what a chosen one is. A chosen one is a way shower. They're a spiritual warrior. They're healers. They're here to create bridges into the new dimension for our people that are enslaved. They're here to bring down the paradigm, to fight that mental paradigm. They're here to transform the world. And they do that just by their presence. They don't even really have to do anything. But it's, as a spiritual warrior, this is a spiritual war. When you come in, your opponents come in. You're like the star player of your team, beloveds. Or you're the star team. So best believe, the enemy, the opponents have studied you. They've studied your moves. They know you're coming. They've been waiting for you. Like in the days of King Herod, like in the days of Moses. You know what I mean? These are the narratives that our people are familiar with, but they've been looking out for the signs. That's what this whole like register your DNA, find out where you're from. That's what this whole thing has been about. It's been about creating a DNA bank, but it's been about targeting those specific people. That's what all their agendas are ultimately about. But these are mystic men and mystic women. They can't be caught, even if they don't know they're mystic men and mystic women. Spirit is weaving and whirling and just keeping them, out of the clutches of the enemy. And so you have to respect who you are. The fact that you are a highly powerful being and you wouldn't come here and no one follow you in. You know what I mean? You wouldn't come here as a chosen one of the Most High. And the devil's chosen one don't send someone to oppose you from the day you're born. Some of us, they came before us. They saw that we were coming and they interceded. They weren't even supposed to be our mothers, beloveds. Some weren't even supposed to be our fathers. But they had something that we could use. They had some ancient DNA bloodline, no matter how diabolical they were in this lifetime. But there, the enemy of our soul came in. This is not a joke. And they've been staying winning because their whole agenda has been to keep us blind from who we are. And that's why their primary weapon has been to put us down, to condition us, to have self-esteem issues, self-confidence issues, self-worth issues. Where you tell me I'm a chosen one and I'm even embarrassed to admit that I'm a powerful super being. And then everything is set up to make me embarrassed and shy and not even want to share the gifts. Like, you have no idea how many messages I get from supermen and superwomen who are like, yo, my gifts just came online and I can do this and I can do that, I'm hearing my neighbor's thoughts through the wall. All of a sudden, I'm seeing like I have like X-ray vision. I mean, these are things that are happening. X-men and X-women are coming online, beloveds, double X. And so you have to understand the why, beloveds. It's because you're not joke. You're a threat to the enemy, and they had to keep you asleep as long as possible. And yet the spirit of your soul allowed it to happen for a particular reason, and I'll get into that right after this.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, Africa.
Welcome back, beloveds, to Ask Dr. Mumbi. My name is Dr. Mumbi Saraki. Thank you so much for joining us. And I just want to give each and every one of you who is awakening to the kind of toxic manipulation, the occult manipulation, the siphoning of your power and your gifts, who's awakening to that. It's painful. It's not an easy thing, beloveds, and it's not an easy road. And the road to recovery, the road to recovery, it's actually a series. Because there's so many levels, and many of the shows that I've shared about coming into your power and detoxing and doing spiritual baths and getting into nature, this is part of the road to recovery. The more you come into yourself, the more you release that character. And you see, at this point, that is done. And part of the why was because a lot of these people, a lot of our family that wed us, a lot of our spouses were extremely abusive. A lot of the friends that we had, just the enemies of our souls that we've encountered, but on that intimate level, where they were either our fathers, our mothers, our brothers, our sisters, our husbands, our wives, and they just came in and they just totally, they were the agent that was sent into our lives. A lot of them, beloveds, we had karma with. You see, because that's why you have to get into really understanding who you are. The why is everything. The why is absolutely everything, because once you get the why and you even just intuitively allow the spirit and your spiritual team to give you that information, you will now even just get the information naturally from your own spiritual team of how to disentangle yourself. Because it's the unraveling is here. And there are certain things you have to do physically for your body just to release those memories from your aura, which is like your spiritual body, the one that people don't see or you see when your first eye is open, and your actual physical body to release those memories. Which is why when you come into the realization and you start walking to your freedom, there's like a great shedding. Because you'll find a lot of people who are in this situation, they kind of tend to, they're two extremes. They'll either lose a lot of weight, but many tend to put on a lot of weight. It's like their body wants to hide and mask them. But the why is everything. And the other thing is these karmic debts. So first you have to understand that you've been here several times. And then you have to understand that in those times, you wronged people too. You did some shady things to people that you had to pay for, but you've been evolving. But you see, for some of us, this is our last stint, man. This is our the last loop. You know what I mean? This is our last play in the charades. And so there are certain karmic debts that had to be settled. Like they were waiting, beloveds. Some of the enemies of our soul who we've been entangled with in this game for so many lifetimes, what many like to call karmics, they have been waiting for us to come back. Because many of us chosen ones haven't been here for a while. They were waiting for us to come back so they could call in that karmic card and have a right to come in as our brother, our sister, our father, our mother, our cousin, our aunt, our uncle. They were waiting, even our own children. There's some women who have gotten in touch with me and say their own children are the ones who have interlocked them in this totally toxic, narcissistic relationship. And what happened, beloveds, is while that narrative existed, many of us, we cleared the karma. It was for a few years. And you see, sadly, many of our parents that wed us, on a spiritual level, they were like jilted lovers, if I can say that. Maybe I'll do a special video on that to explain why would they even come in as a mother and a father and want to do that and spiritually marry you and bind you. Like there's so many layers to this, beloveds. But we owed them something. And you know, one time an elder was speaking to me about, he actually just came and said, you know what? You finished your karma with that karmic parent of yours when you were 13. Like the deal was done. They only had their way until I was 13. But by the time I was 13, everything had been done. The advantage had been taken to ensure that I would remain in that situation for life and feel indebted for life and be bound for life and even be used as a sacrifice, beloveds. And so the karmic agreements ended. And we now must understand that, overstand and understand that there was some kind of spiritual something, a spiritual debt that was probably cleared ages ago. And at this point, beloveds, I don't even want them to pay me for their karma. Like, I'm done. I'm good. Let everything, the karma now, for us who are here on our last merry-go-round, we don't want to come into another lifetime so we can lord it over them, so we can get them to taste their own medicine. We want everything they've done to just return to them. And that's why you have to understand why. Because spiritually, you have to now return to sender. That's your only role, return to sender. But vengeance and all that, like you don't want any kind of bondage with them. You want it to be cut clean. And that takes wisdom. Next time I'll get into some of the rituals we can now do and the things we have to do. But beloveds, even before I do that video, Break all contact. Get a distance. Stop oversharing. Recognize who their aides are, who their agents are, who they used to mash you up, because most of the time they have not been working alone. And disconnect. Get yourself out of that environment, out of that energy, and start to work on your healing, which is more mental first than anything. Until next time, tuko pamoja.